What are your thoughts on
Nice start.
what are your thoughts on new watch fairs, and what is Henry's thoughts on digital watch fairs? I'm assuming what they're saying is, what are your thoughts on the watchmaking fairs nowadays, like Basel and stuff? And then what are your thoughts on having a digital watchmaking fair?
So I want to tackle question number two first.
All right.
So I feel like the digital, because everyone's going on Zoom, right? There's no denying um, Zoom conferences, video conferences, putting stuff online.
Yeah.
That because the you know COVID-19 strike and the industries had to kind of pivot. Um, with that said, I feel like it's inevitable, right? So like this COVID-19 jump started everyone to ensure that they had a online presence. Whether or not it's good, whether or not like people like it, that's a different story. Like personally, I find it a little weird because when you go to the conferences or when you go to a lot of different gatherings and meetups and such, it's it's the fact that you can meet people, play with watches, and then kind of have side conversations with people you think are interesting. So the issue I find is that the Zoom conferencing it's only like it's focused on one person, the speaker essentially, and it's always that
Mm.
like it's a singular format where it's like
I
one
see.
person,
I see what you're saying.
right?
So essentially, what you're saying is like the social aspect of like these watchmaking fairs is lost in the sense
No,
where
I mean it's there. It's just in a different format. Right? I'm pretty. You can for sure you can. Sorry about the noise. I mean, for sure you can break out and have like little side conversations when you're video chatting, But there's nothing like when you're meeting someone and then you guys are sharing drinks and you're just like, oh, what do you think about this? Stuff
yeah.
like that.
This I heard. I've always heard the craziest parties from Switzerland happen after drinking and after the events.
Yes, yes.
uh,
Nothing good comes out of hanging out past 11:30.
Now,
That's
what I
proven.
would, how I feel about these watch fairs is like, I mean, like the whole Basel and stuff. I know they've traditionally done this in the past, and I know that was their way of releasing new watches and all that stuff. But I think having some form of a digital aspect of it is actually good for the industry, just so that they can reach more people. In the sense where I'm not 100% sure if they're releasing this to the public or if it's only to the same people who would attend these events, just having them pay for a digital format. But if it's free and it's public and it's online for everyone to view, I think that'll give them more exposure um,
Yeah.
in that digital sense, you know. But like you said, I think there are some aspects that are lost. But I feel at the same time, what they need to do is they need to introduce. I mean, like Basel World is always the same old releases. It's the same old things over and over again. The first couple of days is for media, and then afterwards it's a release to the public and to all the fans and audience. But the concept of it to someone who's not even in the industry, like if someone was just an enthusiast, having them fly all the way to Switzerland and just to see these watches in person, like the first couple of days, it doesn't even feel like much. Like you can barely even enjoy the fair at that point, if you even want to call it a fair. But
Yeah. And I also feel like there is an experience, and almost like an adventure when someone gets on a plane, takes a trip to Switzerland, because that's kind of the heart of Swiss watchmaking, right?
yeah,
And so in the past, the brands all thought they had to attend SIHH or Basel and all that. But now, like, I mean, look at it. Now it's an open market. Now none of them exist, right?
yeah,
So the brands, everyone's doing their own version of releases, like, so you would go to find an online medium, whether it's Houdinki or whoever, and then kind of do your releases with them.
mm. All right. I mean, now if you had to redo, what would you say is the better? So you actually agree with in-person meetings for these watch fairs? So you agree with having people come out?
There is, I feel like, pros and cons, right? I feel
Okay.
like if you record it, if we have this stuff live stream the event, and have because nothing beats like holding a watch you want to buy, or looking at something new. Like if you go to a watch an online car fair, or watch an online test drive, or would you be more intrigued to sitting in the car, test driving yourself before you purchase. That's kind of my analogy, right? Like the new car smell.
Like, I agree. I like what Adam does with Redbar, like that stuff. I agree with that stuff is interesting because you're getting together with other people who are genuine. You know what I mean? Whereas these watch fairs, I feel like for the most part, when they're presenting these stuff, they're not talking with you; they're talking to you. I don't know if that's a clear concept, but
Yeah.
I feel like if these watch brands decided to talk more with people, they would get significantly further than if they were to do what they're doing now, in a sense where traditionally the way they've done is always talk to the customer, not with the customer.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why well, part of what I do with Watchmaking Project, when we service the watch, um, I don't, at times I can get technical, right? But for the most part, I try to keep it as straightforward as possible. And I kind of explain the process so that they understand almost like 110% of what's wrong with their watch, why we're doing this, like if there's any broken parts, we show them where the part is. Like they see essentially what I see, or I try to show them what I see. So there's a common ground. And so what you're saying is it's true. It's an issue, but it's not only in, it's across, everywhere, right? When it comes to teaching, when it comes to the policing, everything, right? Like it's instead of having a community or a conversation based way of learning and instructing and teaching, people are doing it like it's me teaching you, me showing you, that kind of approach.
So if you were a watch brand, how would you sell? Would you be doing watch fairs, or would you be doing more like Red Bar meetings, or that sort of setup?
I would. Well, first of all, I have no advertising budget, I have no marketing team, so immediately that rules me out for like the large fairs.
Okay,
Obviously, would do like
small
in-person
ones.
meetings. Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Because if you have a watch brand, if you're developing a watch brand, you want to show them your products, right? So the more products, the more hands that get to touch my product, the more likely it is to have someone purchase.
So would you be online, or would you? I mean, I guess would you be doing any of these like watches and wonder, watches wonder? Would you be doing Red Bar a lot more? Would you be doing? How would you set it up?
I would, if I had the bandwidth and capacity, I'd do them all.
Okay, let's just say you have your current bandwidth and capacity.
I would probably do like a couple of online events and more like in-person meetups.
I can agree with that. I think I would do in-person meetings with the local groups. I would also hit up all the Red Bars. If any micro brand is listening, or any watchmaking brand is listening, they should take these advice right here very, very seriously. Do as much meetups as you can with local watch enthusiasts. From there, generate a good audience. Reach out to all the so-called influencers on social media and see what they think about it. Get actual real-life information, get real-life data. Hit up all the Red Bars across the United States. Reach out to all the organizers. Do as much digital watch fairs or digital live meetings, or even go behind the scenes and show as much behind the scenes as possible. Communicate well with the audience. I honestly feel like maybe they should be also reaching out and getting feels. Instead of traditionally the way it's been done, where watch brands are showing you what they've done. What they should do is reach out to clients and audiences and see what they want to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it also goes back to what. Sorry, continue.
No. Go. What you saying?
I was gonna say it goes back to what you were saying, right? Like developing relationships, having a conversation, right? Like that's key to anything. No one is gonna close $1 million deal from a cold call, right? It may happen, right? You may be lucky, but like for the most part, it's like the referrals you get, friends and families, people who you talk to, relationships you develop, that is golden, right? Like nothing beats that aspect of doing business. And it could be with anything, right? It could be from watchmaking to, to big business deals.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Oh, that was good. You know what I found out just yesterday?
what?
I found out about this live video streaming service called Twitch. Maybe I'm old, or maybe like I'm late to the scene.
So
But
you
people
just
are.
found out about Twitch?
I just found out about Twitch. Apparently, they
Let
make
me
like.
guess. You didn't know TikTok exists either.
Well, I heard about TikTok. I just didn't hear about Twitch. Apparently, there are
Really?
people. There are people who are making 5 to 6 to 7 figures on Twitch. Apparently, just live streaming their video games.
There's this dude who's suing Twitch, the company, for $25 million because he whacked off to these gamer girls so bad that he like he hurt his
What?
penis.
So
$25 million
the
lawsuit
guy is suing Twitch because he jerked off really bad
to
to
the
gamer
hot girls
girls.
on Twitch. Yeah,
What the?
there's a whole market.
What the
Can
hell?
you imagine? Can you imagine?
That sounds
Only someone in California could do something like that.
that sounds like a
Injure
McDonald's
himself and then
hot
sue the company.
man. I mean, if you told me when I was younger that you could make video, I mean, back in the days, playing video games was like something you just personally did because it was fun, you know. But to
It's been
make
a
six
couple
to
years.
seven figures, man, shit.
Yeah,
I'm
Twitch has
I'm
been a couple years
reevaluating my
already.
life choices right now, man. I hop on a computer and try it out.
Yeah, you're missing when you hop on a computer. You're missing what is it? Honey bun, Rice Krispies, and like the usual bad snacks
Oh,
every
dude.
gamer would need.
I mean, think about it. If you make a living from Twitch, no type of quarantine or lockdown is gonna have a significant impact on your bottom line. I mean, shit. Talk about working from home.
Yeah, it grew the fan base kind of like this whole COVID-19 sheltering in place.
That's insane, man. I was just doing some research on it last night, and I was just like, holy crap. Maybe I'm just way too late to the scene. But
Yes.
I can't. Do you believe some of these people are making like
Yep.
$2 million just playing Counter Strike?
Yep.
$2
I
million
believe that.
just playing Counter Strike. If you told me that,
They're professional gamers, like professional gamers.
well, what makes a professional gamer? If you make some sort of income from it, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, well like the guys who want to not it wasn't Counter Strike. It was like Call of Duty. It was like a Call of Duty or some whatever game that some dude in Norway or whatever got like a couple $1 million for because that was a prize money.
dude, I'm so jealous. I feel like I've made wrong life choices in my life at this point.
Hey, it's not too late to change your career path.
No BS twitching.
Literally and physically.
No BS twitching. All right. Well, let's get back to some of these questions. Actually, I think this is a good question for you. There was someone who reached out and was talking about the Omega movements versus the Rolex movements. What are your thoughts on the Omega movements versus the Rolex movements?
They're both good, right? I mean, Omega and Rolex has been sitting on top of the industry for years. When it comes to Rolex, movement-wise, they have, I think, about 3 to 4 calibers, right? They have a ladies caliber, a men's caliber, and a chronograph caliber.
Yeah, they have the 15s, the 20s,
Yep.
the 22s, 30s, 31s, and then
30s, yeah.
Now
So
they have like 32s and 41s, etc.
So it's they have in their production line 3 kind of calibers that are always in production, right? Which is good because that means each generation, the 15s, the 20s, the 30s, like each generation, they know exactly what common issues are and like parts for replacement, all that stuff. They have all that capacity. Omega, I feel like sits on the side of more of innovation. So they have a range, a breadth of calibers, right? So they have the vintage Omegas, they have the Lamagna calibers, the Frederick Piguets, they utilize the Bois Dupuis, like it's more, there's more variety when it comes to Omega calibers.
Now, what are your thoughts? I mean,
this watch group brand, right?
Yeah,
so,
there's so much I can get into right now. Actually, what are your thoughts on Omega movements in terms of like the coaxial? Do you believe they're more accurate than traditional Swiss lever movement?
The newer ones, yes, and in accurate sense of because of the type of material that's utilized. So it's more like silicone hairspring, anti-magnetic uh, uh, properties and materials that's utilized in the escapement. That all like plays a factor. Where like if you walk through a big magnet with a regular Swiss lever, it throws your watch out of whack.
Yeah, but wouldn't you argue that the reason why Daniels invented that coaxial concept was to do for better accuracy and less involvement of oiling and lubrication?
Yes, but also
So
what people don't realize is Daniel's escapement is made of gold, right? Like the escape wheel, a lot of materials that make it less oiling or very little oil is because the material is used. And to be fair, it's not practical to mass produce gold in like a common calendar.
wait, so Daniels' original coaxial concept was made out of gold?
I think one of the wheels, like was gold. Yeah, I mean, because
Oh, I didn't
it
know
was
that.
it helped maintain certain efficiencies in not having to oil some stuff. And
Now,
if you treat gold right, I mean, it's gold, right? It's soft
yeah,
enough, smooth enough that you won't have that friction of certain parts.
I would figure that if you had a gold wheel, it would get worn out just 10 times faster, no?
If it's gold on steel, yes. But
Or
if
you're
it's gold
saying the whole.
on or gold on
Oh,
gold, you know what I mean? Like they're material. I mean, I don't want to. I'm by far no expert. Probably have to read the George Daniel books again. But yeah, they there were certain materials of that made it that when I was talking with Roger Smith, that was kind of like my 2 cents of it, right? Like Omega's made the Omega coaxial caliber is based on George Daniels, but it's not George Daniels. That makes any sense, right?
yeah.
Because Omega R&D shrunk that down to be able to mass produce it.
So would you say that the current? Yeah. So I'm assuming you're saying that the current escapement is superior than the previous version of the coaxial.
Well, every
Coaxial
version,
escapement.
because the coaxials came out. I think the 2500A was the first like Omega's. No, actually, I think the first was an IWC, and then Swatch Group bought it from IWC. So Daniels went to IWC first. So IWC had the idea of the coaxial escapement, and then I think IWC sold it over to Swatch Group or Omega, and Omega took the idea and kind of rolled with it.
Well, I know Omega. I know Daniels also went to Patek Philippe and then Rolex as well.
And he was rejected every step of the way because
Now,
it's hard to mass produce that idea, right? Unless you have a big R&D team, which Swatch Group obviously clearly does, because they own kind of the whole supply chain, right? They have oils, they have R&Ds, they have movement houses, they have factories.
now I know Fenwick. Fenwick used to say. So for those who don't know, Dan Fenwick used to work for Omega. He's like one of the knowledgeable guys over at Omega. He used to say that the George Daniels, the current Omega coaxial is no longer. Well, he said that the Omega coaxial is so far ahead that you can't even give George Daniels credit for the current coaxial.
No, I agree. They went through so much. Like there were times I've sat on the bench and worked on these coaxial movements, and it's like every other year or every other couple of months, there'd be kind of like a press release of like, oh, we made an upgrade to this movement to take care of this problem. Like please upgrade to this part to manage this problem. But see, here's the thing between I feel like with Rolex and Omega is, and that speaks volumes in their collections and how they approach watchmaking, is Omega's not scared to make these mistakes, right? To go out and try the stuff, right? Whereas Rolex sticks to like the core of what they know, which to your point isn't bad. But like I like the idea that me working at Swatch Group in 5 years, I've practically touched majority of the movements in the industry without having to work for all the brands. Because Omega had all these calibers, had all these movements. We had the Lemania movements. We were working on the 36 gauge, chronographs, the high end stuff that AP uses and all the other brands uses. So
Yeah,
that armed me with knowledge of like a multitude of movements and doing multiple different things without ever realizing it, because I obviously took it for granted working for Omega.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Henry used to work for Omega, and Henry passed.
Yeah.
I believe Henry passed almost all. Henry actually passed all the exams for Omega to be fully certified. Not include. This is not just your basic level 1, where it's like the old WME, but there were 2 and 3 more additional tests after that to become a fully certified under Swatch Group. But I mean, speaking of, like you were saying about the innovations, I mean, what do you think about Lubrifar? I mean, I don't agree with Lubrifar.
Between an honest piece for me, I fucking hate Lubrifar. Like in the past, when I didn't know, I would like take a new skate wheel, put it in a movement, and I think it was good. Oh, dude, that watch came back all gunked up and
yeah, that's what they were
freaking
saying.
ugly. And then the guy was like, "Did you service this watch?" I'm like, "I fucking did service this watch, you son of a," And then later I realized they're all coated Lubrifar. And then when you roll so if those of you don't know, Lubrifar is
like Omega's version of Epilame or Fixo Drop.
It's a treatment they use on the skate wheels. And normally apparently the coating helps it last longer. It protects it from the more damaging properties of, I guess, the pallet jewel. But so geniuses thought it would be a good idea to coat them, and obviously I'm not going to argue with them. So I would just take a batch of them, kind of pre-clean them beforehand, put them in the machine, and like have my little section of clean the skate wheels, like if I ever need to use them.
So you had to use Lubrifar the entire time when you were working on Omega, correct?
And no, the parts come treated with it already. So if I were to use the part,
pre-treated?
It was pre-treated in the package for it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either.
What are your thoughts? Because you work for some brands yourself.
I prefer the traditional Epilame Fixo Drop. I think they did a good job on that. Now the problem with a lot of people who don't know about Fixo Drop is that they think that the bottle lasts forever. But the minute you open that bottle of Epilame, the best results you'll get with it is within the first month or 2. Not even, like, you're only really supposed to keep it for like a month after you open it. The problem is that people open it and then they use the same they pour a little bit out into a small container and they use that Epilame for months and months on end. The problem with that is that the original Epilame bottle is only good for about a month after you open it, because not many people know, but the Epilame itself, the active ingredient in Epilame is like 0.003% or some crap. It's like 99% and more just solution.
Yeah.
Which is why when you pour it out, it just vaporizes so fast. But I prefer Epilame, long story short. I mean, the reason why some people get terrible results with Epilame is because either their Epilame is poor, it's old or outdated, or they're not treating it correctly after. They're not doing the treating process correctly. And even then, there are a lot of people who say that they don't 100% know the best results for Epilame yet, but the current tried and true methods have been working for a long time.
And for those of you who don't know what that process is, Anthony, can you take us through what a proper way of Epilame coating looks like?
I mean, long story short, the reason why we want to Epilame coat anything is so that we ensure that the surface layer, the surface tension of any specific part we want to put Epilame on changes so that the oil stays there. So long story short, to make it as simple as it possibly can, if I want to put oil on the escapement, let's just say, and I want the oil to remain on the escapement, I'm going to Epilame treat the escapement. to ensure that the oil just doesn't like fly away from that speed. Long story short, when you dip something with Epilame, you also there are very varying degrees of processes. So each brand will do it a little differently. I don't know how they did it over at Omega, but they used to recommend everyone after you Epilame treat it, you use heat to actually vaporize the actual solution on it, so that the concentration of Epilame is better. Some people have actually gone away from the heat. They just decided to put it on their bench and like cover it and let the process occur naturally. How do you do Epilame actually?
So yeah, what you just described, right? You take it, you dip the part that needs to be coated, and then you heat treat it. The heat treated apparently helps the Epilame kind of stay on the part.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And
I did both methods, right? Like when I first started, I was using Epilame. I would just let it air dry, right? I'd let it sit for like 5 to 10 minutes. I like would pre-coat the stuff first, let it air dry, and then later on, we got word that hey, you should try using heat to seal in the part when you're done. So started doing that as well.
I mean, there are
But
varying degrees. Like other people have also said that like you don't need to do either. You need cool air. It's so difficult right now. But there's
yeah,
so much R&D going into Epilame and trying to master that technique, because a lot of problems come back because of improper Epilame coating. Believe it or not, like the watchmaker could have done everything right, and the watch still would come back maybe several months on before the service cycle ends. And if you open it up, the escapement is just covered in dirt and from the ruby and from the coating being rubbed off the entire time.
Yeah,
But
and so if like just to keep everything kind of layman terms, Epilame is a version of pre-lubing. Like when you lube something up to go in to ensure a proper coating. It's essentially pre-lubing of a watch part to ensure longevity, so to speak.
yeah, man. All right, so let's get into the next question. Actually, there was someone who was asking the differences between Omega. Speaking of Omega, there are some people who were asking what the difference is between Omega 18 versus 1861.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on it? Actually, let me see if I can pull up a better question.
Incoming call.
No, you're good. No, go first. Go first. What are your thoughts on it?
So the 861 caliber, there's I think like 3 different ones. There's one where it's just like a regular rhodium plate. There's one where it's where it's plated, but it's yellow. There's one where it's plated and looks like it's kind of like a pinkish yellow, like a pinkish movement color. So here's the thing: the factory can't reproduce that pinkish gold color for the life of them. They just can't do it. They don't know what it is. I don't know. But like when I was talking to them, they weren't sure, and I was like, also same question, right? When I was chatting with the guys from the Omega factory and the Omega trainers, it was like, hey, so what's the deal? They can't code it. They can't replicate the older lines, and also to be 1861 has kind of like a more modern finish, a modern kind of like look and style to it, and they put in new kind of like a polyester or like a piece of plastic as a component in their movement.
Now, I mean, this person is asking, a BH Row actually is asking the difference between the 1861 and the 1863. He's read about the differences about the Delrin break in the 1861, and then he was asking if there was any advantages over the steel break in the 1863.
So I don't, except for the finish, because the movements that are on with 1863 are, from my understanding, sapphire case backs. So it's more for aesthetics, right? So you could see like the straight graining of that brake, and you see the chronograph and clutch, activate and stuff. Whereas the 1861 has the kind of the plastic brake, and I mean, I don't think it's wrong. I mean, I've worked on both of them, so over time, that plastic brake kind of like turns yellowish. But functionality, it always, I haven't seen any issues with it, right? Like, so they say, oh, go ahead.
Now, you can't wash that, correct? You can't wash plastic parts.
They say you're not supposed to, but many times I have cleaned it. But I mean, the key is like, don't leave in ammonia; it'll dissolve it, right? Like,
now, is it true? Is it cheaper? Would you say that the plastic is somewhat cheaper than the steel version, maybe in terms of quality?
I mean, one's plastic, one's steel. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Obviously, it'll cost. I would think it costs more to produce a steel part than it would a plastic part, but
in terms of quality, like, would you say you don't notice a difference?
No, so they say the plastic piece was used so that it doesn't eat away at the chronograph, the tooth. When you activate the start-stop function, that kind of like clutches onto the chronograph wheel. So they say it was for the longevity of that. But to be honest, I don't have. There may be like one or two occasions where I've seen that brake really, the plastic brake being really bad, or that metal brake, like being misused for some odd reason.
Okay, well, that's good. Now, at least we cleared that up. Okay, so this is a good question. What in watchmaking surprised you when you first started?
How it's like every other job, right? Every other industry. So people think watchmaking, like they romanticize watchmaking, right? And sometimes maybe, yes, it has this bit of honeymoon. There's a honeymoon phase, but if you work for like anyone else, there's KPIs you have to meet. There's like production numbers you have to ensure. There's productivity measurements that, like, you know what I mean? It's very, it's like everything else, like that's one thing that people don't understand, and I try to let them know that, hey, grass is always greener on the other side. And I was, it was a good friend of mine on Colorado that we were chatting about. But she's like, thinking about leaving a certain industry and like trying something else out. And I'm like, you could do it, but don't quit right away, right? Don't throw your eggs in one basket, and just make sure that you're doing it the right way, right? Like if you want to start off by doing watchmaking, like change all the bracelets you can change all of them in your watch first. Help your family members, change neighbors' watches, like that kind of stuff, and slowly kind of like from there get into it.
I agree with you. I think one of the things that did surprise me when I first started was the I mean, when you go through watchmaking school, you're kind of just like, you're kind of babied. I don't know, like, I guess that's a better term for today. I mean, I akin it to like bullies. Like, you almost got to get punched in the mouth in watchmaking school so that when you come out, you know how to deal with all the bullies you're gonna experience in the industry. Not to say bullies or anything, but like when you go to the retail side, like you're not treated like you're some sort of genius or whatnot. Like they explain it to you when you're watchmaking school. They promise you the world. They tell you to be anything you want to be. And when you go out into the real world, it's not always that case. Like you get treated like a second-class citizen practically as a watchmaker in the retail side. And then in the service side, you have to fight. You almost have to make the decision between quality and quantity because they expect you to have a high amount of productivity while keeping your quality. And they also want you to have X amount of quantity per week or per day. Hello. All right. I think we lost Henry. Let's see if we have some technical difficulties here. But yeah, until Henry gets connected back, we'll keep going. So, Henry, you're back? Okay. So yeah, no,
Sorry,
like I was
sorry
saying,
about that.
I just feel like people need to have that reality side of watchmaking, know what to expect up front, and so they don't encounter this when enter the industry and be completely blindsided. I mean, a lot of people end up quitting the industry altogether.
Yeah, I mean that last bit you said completely resonates with me because I know really good watchmakers, good people that I've met in watchmaking that are no longer in watchmaking because of how they felt they
Treated,
were being
yeah,
uh, not
you know what I
represented
mean?
or
And
and treated essentially, right? So
like a lot of these people, a lot of these kids, or a lot of these students who are coming right out of school, they they expect to come out becoming the next Daniels, or they expect to come out becoming the next person who creates the best, watchmaking watch possible. But what the reality side of it is that they end up coming out just working at a service center.
and and listen, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like there's nothing wrong with coming out and wanting to change the world. There are people who are doing it, right? Like if they have enough time, money, or resources, obviously, sky's your limit.
Yeah, but I mean, it's tough, man. I think what I've also found were that people who get full ride scholarships to these watchmaking schools, where they don't have to pay a single dime for, are actually more susceptible to quitting the industry when they come out. Simply because they have no vested interest in it other than time that they spent. So the more they spend in the field of watchmaking through schooling, the more they're actually inclined to stay within the industry. Um, that's just what I found. That's just what I've heard, and that's just me when I like dealing with some of these graduates who come out.
Yeah. Listen, there's something to be said for the process, right? Sometimes, how many times have you went to school? Like, I personally graduated, or I hold a bachelor's in accounting, right? Have I used it? Maybe 2 years when I was, in IB. And then like I went right back into watchmaking, right? So it's like there's nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with finding, what excites you or what doesn't excite you early on, as opposed to being miserable
Yeah,
your whole
I've
life
always
doing
recommend
something you
people
don't like.
just to try it out first. Just tinker it. Don't be brash. Don't be impulsive. Just get a cheap clone, get some tweezers, get some screwdrivers, and just take it apart, put it back on, do it for about a month, see if you find some sort of passion and joy, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Like once you start tinkering, you're gonna realize like this sucks, right? Like, like you're gonna be like, oh damn, like I messed this part up, or like
Yeah,
that wasn't, that's no good. So, and there are times when like you could try to do everything right, and then like you still kind of like mess something up, and you're like you feel like shit, right? Like, there are many times where I've worked on a watch, and it's like I did everything I thought it was supposed to do right, and then like I still kind of like I was like, damn, like I need a part, or like I need this thing, or I need that thing, and
yeah.
you have to kind of work with what you got.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What are your thoughts on modding a watch?
In
Like,
what sense?
there was
Because
a there was like a recent thing
I,
where some celebrity had a
personally,
skeletonized Rolex, and then you got other celebrities with like a completely all black Rolex. You got other people who have like, yeah, they got other people who modded the living life out
banter.
of their watches. Um, I I mean, in support of the freedom of doing whatever the hell you want to do, I think they should be allowed to do it. But just know that when they go back to the
Hmm.
manufacturer always has a responsibility of providing you with some sort of warranty. And because they need to provide you with some sort of warranty, they're going to ensure that every single part of that watch is calculated. So if you modded your watch, there's nothing wrong with modding your watch. If you want to do it, do it. Like I believe in doing whatever the hell you want to do. But if you bring it to the manufacturer or the brand itself, they're gonna want to convert it back to the original piece, because only then can they be sure that it is water resistant and that it is actually going to perform the way it's supposed to perform. Um, yeah, I mean that's just my thoughts on it.
It's funny you say that, right? Because um, like I have, some extremely private like clients who enjoy watchmaking to the point where it's like, here's a movement. Can you work your best finishing on this? Can you black polish your screws? Can you, chamfer, put chamfering and anglage on the bridges and kind of like the whole like 9 yards of like make my movement as beautiful as you can, right? like draw me like one of your French
Titanic,
girls, to quote the Titanic, right? Yeah, but I mean, so I don't think, to your point, I don't think that there's nothing wrong with that. It's their watch. It's like if you have a car, right, you could put a tint on the car if you want, or you could change the wheels if you want, the rims and the wheels and all that stuff. However, I don't think it's the manufacturer's fault, or I don't think the manufacturer, to my knowledge, like if you go to Rolex, like a PVD, like a blacked out, decked out watch, I don't think they're taking those in.
No,
Like if you go to Rolex and you have like
no, they'll actually make you. Well, here's the funny thing about Rolex. They can actually, if they find like they're more than like three or more than, what the hell am I trying to say? If they find more than 3 or more pieces that are non-genuine, they have the ability to deem the entire watch counterfeit. Even though, let's just say everything else in the watch is real and legit, they find 3 or more pieces, they have that ability. Now, whether they want to exercise it, that's on them. And even then, let's just say you modded out your diamond bezel, or what, you modded out a bezel and you turned it into a diamond, or you modded your case. Even then, they would also still have the ability to keep it and go forward with saying you can pay for a new case, but we're going to keep it. Or they can be nice. Most of the time, they're nice and they'll send it back to you. If you send in a fake watch, like a completely fake watch, then they also reserve the right to actually keep it and discard it altogether, contrary to what anyone believes. And I get people think that just because it's their watch, even though it's fake, that when they send it in for repair, even the people believe that even though it's their watch, they have the right to get it back. But the way Rolex sees it is, it's their IP. It's the IP. You know what I mean? It's kind of like saying someone's gonna walk around, and I get flack for this all the time. Explaining this to some people. It's kind of like if you're walking around the street with someone's stolen identity, even though you probably quote unquote paid for it and you didn't know it was that person's identity, and you have their social security and all that, and then someone finds the real individual, they have the ability to take all that back no matter how much you paid for that. Because at the end of the day, it's not yours. So the way Rolex says is, I remember seeing several letters from them, and it was hilarious. Not hilarious in the sense where the client's gonna lose their piece, but it's hilarious in the way they worded it. They're like, I forgot the exact terminology, but they're like, please let us know how you would like us to disintegrate it or something like that, or discard. They used some sort of phrase. It was hilarious because it was in the sense where they're like, they're just gonna throw it out. Yeah,
so it was like a one-page letter, like detailing
legal terminology. It was just like, yeah, do you want?
We're gonna throw it out.
Exactly. They're like, how do you want to deal with this?
Long story short, but we're gonna throw it out.
Would you guys like us to just like disintegrate it? I was just like, holy crap, and
yeah. So, yeah, Audemars Piguet has the same policy. I think so for AP, right? And obviously, when you work for like such a hot watchmaking brand, you see all types of like good fakes, shitty fakes, bad fakes, and once it gets sent over to AP, it's like, sorry, bud, I know you probably paid decent money thinking this was a real AP, but you're not gonna get this back. We're gonna just like at the end of the year, there's a vault they have that they throw all the fake APs in there, and they just like destroy the hell out of it, for a better lack of terms. And yeah, it's their brand property, right? So like, I also equate this to a stolen identity. I equate this to a stolen car, right? Because a stolen car is more relatable. You purchased the car, you thought it was a real car, you thought all this stuff was legitimate, but at the end of the day, it's not. It was a stolen car to begin with. It belonged to someone else. right? So that's
Now, did they ever
kind of
let you
like,
authenticate at the boutique
yeah,
level or at
yeah.
the client level? No, right?
Nope. So we can do very vague testing, but if they want like official certification and paperwork saying that this is a certified AP, that has to come from either Switzerland or had to come from
Yeah,
Clearwater
because a
or the
lot of these
headquarters
companies
in
now, they
Florida.
actually, I remember a lot of these companies, they reached out to all of us and they were saying that no one is really allowed to authenticate at the store level. So if you just for anyone that's listening and you watching through this or whatnot, if you have a reason to believe your watch is fake, I would recommend you bring it to your trusted watchmaker or whatnot. But if you bring it to a regular boutique or a brand level, you walk in there, they don't have the ability to. They can offer you their opinion. So no matter what they say to you, it's really just their opinion. Because when they send that watch in, and they find out that it's actually fake, that's when like a lot of these companies, they have several individuals within the company that can actually authenticate it by searching through the archives and searching through the history. But for the most part, anyone else on the store level uh, does not have the ability to authenticate or anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't. And
Yeah,
for some of the watchmakers who
yeah,
are
for sure.
listening, one of these things that the brands actually do, and they should probably do too in their terms of agreements, is to say that the estimate itself does not mean providing the estimate to the client does not mean that they are authenticating the watch, because there are many times where just and just for the sake of speed and doing an estimate, they don't open up the watch sometimes. I don't recommend that at all. I recommend everyone open up their watches when they're doing estimates. But sometimes for the sake of speed, they do it and they look at the watch, they look at the general concepts, they know the model already, they know what they need in that movement. They don't even open up the watch sometimes. And in the process of providing the estimate and when they're taking apart the watch, they find out that it's fake long after the client has already accepted the estimate. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, yeah. There's I feel like a lot of brands have contingencies
Yeah,
for
I'm just saying. Sometimes the independent
situations like that.
watchmakers don't. Sometimes there's like a trust factor with the clients, kind of. Uh, so
Yeah, and so somebody once told me finding a good watchmaker is equivalent to finding a good person to
yeah.
cut
I
your
mean, a
hair, a
good
good person
tradesman,
to like
exactly.
um, make your suits. Like it's yeah, and it's important to have someone like that in your pocket, or even like sometimes everyone has their accountant, they have their lawyers, like they have their own team of people doing different things. It's important to have someone you trust work on the
Yeah,
stuff
I
that
agree.
your watch is for you.
Um, and then in other news, speaking of that, speaking of like skill level, like, did you hear that Trump just signed like the executive order yesterday that the government is going to be making changes to hiring requirements? So the having a college degree is going to be not as heavily influenced in the job making process. I'm not sure if that's only for government officials or government related jobs, or if that's for everybody yet. But they so government.
No, I
Oh,
think
okay, I
that's
take it
for
back.
government related jobs that like they're
On skills.
putting emphasis, the federal government putting emphasis on. Oh no, like so more so uh, um, experience, like what you can do as
Mm.
opposed to what the paper says you can do, which is which is a good shift because I know amazing smart people who
Oh yeah.
don't have college degrees, right? College degrees, like Elon Musk said, like you know, colleges, Harvard is a great place, to get an education because most of the guys who work for him are from Harvard, but it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that's the only place to get an education,
Good point.
right?
Okay, so just moving on to the next couple questions. We have time for a couple more questions.
Okay.
What is your advice for? Okay, so this person is just graduating from watchmaking school. He's asking, what advices do we have for him when he graduates? Like, what are our top advices?
Not so. I have to caveat this answer with a statement, right? Not all schools, watchmaking schools, um, arm you with the same knowledge, right? Some watchmaking schools have their methods of doing things because it suits kind of their production lines. So with that kind of said, it depends if you were trained to go to work for a Swatch Group or whether you were trained to work for Rolex. So they both are good, you know. It's just I feel like depending on where your skill set is, you might need to go into something else to acquire that missing skill set. So,
No,
I
I
don't know
think
if that
so.
helps.
I mean,
I don't know if this long roundabout way of answering your question helps the person.
Yeah, no, you said.
But like assess. Oh, go ahead. I would say just assess where you're currently at, assess where you want to be, and then
I think
kind of jump the gun and go for it.
I agree with you. I also think that a lot of these watchmaking students, they should be working on watches on the side already at home during schooling, instead of work. Because here's the thing. Here's how I feel. I feel like in watchmaking school, it's this perfect scenario laid out for you already. It's a very controlled environment. So the movements they introduce to your benches, the what they ask you to do is very controlled. When you go onto the field, sometimes there's just this element of like it doesn't make sense. Sometimes there's going to be elements that just simply do not make sense. Like I don't know why someone would adjust this, or I don't know why this would why someone would even break this, or how did this even occur. In some logical sense, we can always trace everything backwards and see where it occurred, but I feel like that chaotic element needs to be introduced at some point through the schooling. So how I feel is that the person, one, should already be working on watches during the schooling process, and if they have any questions, they have the ability to reach out to the instructor. And then two, when they graduate, to expect to eat shit for the first like several years. I mean, you're gonna have to do on-the-job experience for another 5 to 10, easy. I mean, they're gonna eat shit. I mean, long story short. I mean, whether it's verbal shit from employees or coworkers or just like shit from clients. I mean, you're gonna be eating shit. It's not this glamorous thing where you come out and you're like in this beautiful like watchmaking promotional video, you know, you're wearing your lab coat and I don't know. It's not.
But Anthony, I thought that's what watchmaking was all about.
But look, I mean, here's the thing.
Please,
the more you make
more.
people aware of it, the more realistic expectations they have going into the field.
I think that's like that everywhere, right? Like just look at this. Like, I mean, if you're a doctor, I mean, your goal is to save lives, right? But let's be realistic. There are times when people die in your hands too, right? Like, you kind of have to.
But see, like the problem I had was like even with like kind of TV, like let's talk about doctors. You had like shows like Grey's Anatomy and whatever the hell, where they're always like glorify these positions, but at the same time in these shows, you see some sort. I don't want to say realistic. You see some sort of constant where the characters are eating shit. Where do you see in watchmaking where watchmakers are eating shit in some sort of promotional video? Like there was this movie with Pierce Brosnan, who was a watchmaker apparently, and somehow because of his watchmaking skills, he becomes like a skilled assassin because he's so detailed and OCD and precise. Like, no.
Wait,
I'm just saying, like, don't get me wrong. You can some of those traits in watchmaking can carry over into fastest of watchmaking can carry over into anything in your life, and just like you can really say that about anything, honestly. But it's more applicable sometimes is watchmaking because of the whole analytical skill. But if you look at all these schools and all these companies, all these brands, like or anybody who's talking about watchmaking schooling or whatnot, there's always this glorification aspect of it. No one tells you that, like, look, this is great and all, but when you come out, you're gonna be eating shit. You know, you're gonna be dealing with a lot of issues for the first several years of your life. You know, like your watchmaking school can only cover so much.
I mean, that speaks to the reality of schooling itself, a proper education, right? So, like, I'm pretty sure most schools like help you, or they already intake client watches for free, so that it gives the student like more hands-on experience. But you're right. Nothing beats the fact that you need to make mistakes to grow. Experience is the best way
I
to
almost feel like some watchmaking
learn.
schools should have like this one whole month or one whole section of their schooling dedicated to eating shit. Just like, look, guys, you guys are gonna be dealing with some tough shit. Here's some tough love during this whole next month. and just like, and just put them through the whole ringer. Just like, look, you guys are worthless. You guys suck.
You know what I
just bring him down back to reality a little bit. Like, look, you guys ain't shit. Yeah, you guys are gonna eat shit. Like here's some impossible.
So
for
have
sure, like some sort of hell
have
week.
a hell week
Yeah,
for
perfect
students.
way to set it. Actually, it's some sort of hell week.
24
Dead
hours of
serious.
fixing
Not
four
even.
movements.
Just say like,
with
here,
clients
there
screaming
are
at
8
you.
watches on your desk. You need to complete this within 24 hours. If you can't, you're gonna fail. Or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, and just during the entire process of when they're working on watches, have someone interrupt them at all times. Just like every 5 minutes, have like some. Yeah.
Hey, can you change the strap? Hey,
Someone
can
should
you
come
change
in
this
with like
bracelet?
a
Hey, can you
huge
size
fan,
this for
just
me?
blowing dust on their bed. Just like, eat this shit.
I don't want to go to your
I can
school.
guarantee you though, when they come out of that school, there will be some tough watchmakers right there. They're not leaving the field anymore.
They invest
for
all the
sure.
time and all the dust
Oh
and all
yeah, you think
the
I'm kidding?
screams and the hell weeks.
I think that'll be a really cool. I mean, I think from an instructor or teacher's perspective, that'll be a really look. What is a teacher supposed to do? They're supposed to set you up for success. They're supposed to teach you just enough for you.
No,
Sure,
they're supposed to guide you.
yes, they're supposed to arm.
Success. They're supposed to arm
Yes,
you with the
great.
knowledge.
But what I'm trying to say is this:
succeed.
why? Okay, a teacher's goal, long story short. I mean, my goal